Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome to the final episode in my Alpha-24 updates guide. After looking at some of the generic changes that have affected all the factions, well, at least in theory, this one covers the big changes that will be faction specific. So without further ado, Merry Christmas, and here we go. So this is episode 4 of the series, and it covers what we can expect from Alpha-24, well, when it eventually arrives. Now you can find the others linked in a playlist in the information card in the top right of the screen now, but if you've seen all those already, then it's best that we just plough on with a faction by faction breakdown. First up, the Athenians. And the Cradle of Civilization has a pretty simple collection of changes. Firstly, their team bonus of a 25% reduction in warship construction time for allies will actually be implemented. This means the only faction with no team bonus finally has one. The other change will be one that affects a lot of factions, as they'll get access to the exciting world of artillery towers, and they will have both catapult and bolt shooter options. The Britons changes almost all apply to the War Dog. Firstly, its walk speed will be reduced from 14.4 to 13.5, while its run speed will inversely be increased from 24 to 27, and its health will also be increased from 90 to 110. Most notably though, it will no longer come from a specific building and will instead be available from the barracks. The only downside to this is that your maximum number will be reduced from 50 to 20. As an aside, presumably that means it will be trainable right from the beginning of the game, and if it does, it will make the Britons even more overpowered than they currently are. The idea that you can harass and savage your enemies, farmers and berry pickers with dogs right from the off will put any opponent on the defensive, meaning it's likely that their already quick development will provide an even greater advantage against an enemy constantly trying to repel dog attacks. The only other change of note is that the mill that speeds up your farming is no more, confined to the dustbin of history. A sad day for all of 0 AD's digital Celtic farmers. Like the Athenians, the Carthaginians will also get artillery towers, and as they have access to the mobile versions of both catapults and bolt shooters, they'll also get them in tower form. They will also see their hero Hannibal's bonus of +1 capture and +20% attack within 60 metres apply to their allies. The other big change is to elephants, and because of that I'll cover it in a separate section of the video right at the end. Sorry about that, but it's pretty big and it affects a large number of factions, so I'd otherwise be just going over it repeatedly. The first big change for the Gauls is the loss of their hugely OP team bonus in exchange for another hugely OP team bonus. So no more will allies see their research time for upgrades, which includes phasing up, remember, reduced by 10%. Instead, they'll find that upgrades from their blacksmith will be reduced by 15% in both time and cost now. So frankly, this looks like an effort to ensure that the Celts increase their lead as the best factions. I really hope there's some kind of nerfing that happens before release, because this is just a bit silly. Secondly, the farmstead has a new technology available in the town phase called Harvesting Machine, which will see your farming rate increase by 15%. This will cost 400 wood and 250 metal, and that seems like a bargain to me, and is also a good replacement for the mill, which, as we established in the Britain section, no longer exists. Finally, the Naked Fanatic Champion unit will see its movement speed drop from the almost cavalry level that it had before to the same as a regular skirmisher. 16.4 will go down to 12.6, which will make them far less effective. So maybe that's the nerfing that the Gauls have had. Let's see. The changes for the Iberians number just one. Instead of the incredible 20% reduction in skirmisher cost for allies, it's reduced to 10%, and now it's also only for citizen soldier infantry rather than the cavalry. In fairness, this was needed, as otherwise Ptolemy players using Ptolemy the Saviour with an Iberian ally were effectively being paid to train skirmishers after this bonus. With the Kushites, I'll just direct you to a video that I've already made, as that covers the introduction of axemen, the fact that mercenary camps can be built more quickly and in neutral territory, and finally the introduction of archery tradition. As the other changes are pretty cosmetic and uninteresting, like slight cost changes for pyramids and a bit of a restructuring of bonuses, let's just move on. The 10% attack bonus against other Hellenic factions and the Persians is removed, but so is the 5% attack reduction against the Romans. As you'd expect, the artillery towers for both catapult and bolt shooter are introduced. And finally, they have a slight shifting of their unit composition. A champion crossbowman that can be trained from the siege workshop is introduced, as is the availability of a Thracian blackloak from the fortress. Frankly though, I'm a little disappointed that the Macedonians haven't just been given access to the Stoa. But at least this does give them some anti-ram troops, as they are currently woefully ill-prepared for this. So that's one positive take. And who knows, maybe Alpha 25 will bring the wonderful Stoa to the Macedon. The most interesting changes for the Maurians are all relevant related, but before we get to that, let's look at the one thing that's not. They're going to have no upgrades available in their siege workshop, but as they currently don't have any siege weapons available, well, except for the rams that they'll currently get if they take over the fortress of a faction that produces them, I'm going to assume that this is all you'll get from it. So elephants and rams together can be a pretty lethal combination, so this is certainly going to improve the Maurians a lot. Now, onto elephants. And the first thing to say is your worker elephant will no longer be able to build things. Instead, it's going to have an aura that gives a plus 25% build rate for citizens within 15 meters. It will also see its training time reduced from 15 to 14 seconds. The same reduction in training time will apply to elephant archers, who will also see their food costs reduced from 200 to 175, and wood from 275 from 80, and metal is going to be removed completely. This is a massive change, and it's almost at the point where elephant archers may actually be worth using. And this will be especially true if you're to use the new upgrade which is being introduced, and that's an elephant training speed reduction of 30%, and it will cost just 175 food. And the final thing that you'll need to note is that Maurian war elephants will train in just 24 seconds rather than the 30 seconds that will apply to all other factions. So get the upgrade on top of this, and it reduces training time to 16.8 seconds for a war elephant. That is insane production levels. And also, that elephant is going to be a heavy war elephant, as a little teaser for the elephant information that's going to come later on. The Persians will see their sword cavalry replaced by axe cavalry, which have a pretty decent 2.3 crush damage and increased hack attack from 6.5 to 6.9. The other changes are that the metal cost is reduced from 20 to 10, and that's replaced by wood, which increases from 30 to 40, as well as the attack speed changing from 0.75 seconds to 1 second. Now, I'm not sure why, but these are going to be trained from the barracks rather than the stable in Alpha 24. But more interestingly, the movement speed upgrades from the corrals will also be available from the stable. Two buildings are going to be removed. Those are the Ishtar Gate and the Persian Hall. Now, where the removal of the Persian Hall means that the champions and elephants are going to be trained, or if they'll be available at all, is not yet clear. Finally, they will get access to a new unit, which is a champion chariot, the same one as the civilisations have, and that will be trained at the fortress. There's not much going on with the Ptolemies, so they'll remain one of the top factions, but they'll see the Celts move clear of them at the very top. Now, first up for their changes, their free structures will no longer have loot available, which makes sense. If they took nothing of value to build, why would they provide something of value to destroy? Secondly, we'll see the introduction of the artillery towers for both bolts and catapults. And finally, their elephant will become a light war elephant. And just to keep teasing you, those details are still to follow. The Romans, similar to the Ptolemies, don't see much in the way of changes. Their team bonus sees a nerfing of its training time, falling from 20% to just a 10% reduction. The entrenched military camp also sees its reduced cost as the metal element is removed completely, and that will save you 200 metal and make this incredible building even better than it currently is. The other changes are the introduction of artillery towers, again for both bolts and catapults, and a change in siege wall cost. The construction speed is reduced by 20% for walls and by 17% for the gate. The gates are also made weaker, and they'll see their cost reduced by 75%, down from 80 wood to just 20. And finally, the loot on the walls is reduced from 15 wood to 10 wood. We may as well not bother with the Seleucid section. They'll get a catapult tower, and their war elephant is considered heavy. There you go, it's done. For lovers of the Spartans, we have bad news. Skiritai commandos are now much worse. Slowed down to the same speed as other citizen soldier swordsmen, and with their health decreased from 144 to 121. The only flip side is that their gather rate is enhanced a little, and their loot's changed, but that's it. The only other thing that's going to happen to the Spartans is that, like all the others with some siege weapons, they're going to have bolt towers introduced. And that's all the factions covered. But what about the elephant changes that we were earlier discussing? Well, 3 factions that are based more towards Asia will get heavy elephants, and they're 10% stronger and more costly than currently, while those based in Africa get weaker elephants that are 10% cheaper, quicker to train, and weaker than currently. This means the Mauryans, Persians, and Seleucid elephants are now 22% better than those for the Carthaginians, Kushites, and Ptolemies. Details are on screen now. And that's us done for another week. Thank you very much for watching, and if you could hit like, subscribe, and pretty much any button that you can see, well, maybe you could leave the thumbs down one, I'd be very happy with that. And I'll see you in a week's time. Obrigado e adeus. E Feliz Natal.